All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today we are going to be continuing on the path of innate magical abilities by looking at the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So, as we always start these off, quick primer on 5th edition class design. In the 5th edition, all classes are meant to play very differently right from the beginning. So in order to do that, they have these things that we call defining features. And those defining features should show up within the first to 2 levels. For the Sorcerer, their defining feature is what's called Font of Magic, which gives them this resource called Sorcery Points. Sorcery Points, initially at level 2 can be used to give yourself additional spell slots, or to effectively kind of change one spell slot into another by changing a spell slot into sorcery points and then using sorcery points to create a different level spell slot. It adds a lot of versatility to the casting available to a sorcerer. In addition to that, another defining feature of the sorcerer is they are one of 2 classes that chooses their subclass at level 1. So your sorcerer subclass is going to vastly change how you play your sorcerer. Obviously, your subclass is going to affect your subclass because that's what this subclass does. But most of the subclasses will also give you kind of unique ways to use your sorcery points, or some kind of unique ways to affect your spell casting in general. So let's go with the Clockwork Soul. Now, I've mentioned this before. One of the things I love about Tasha's is she has these little blips at the beginning of each section where she just gives her own little commentary, and some of them are brilliant. I have to read the one for Clockwork Soul. I rarely tell people I speak Modron because invariably they just want to learn how to curse. So let's get this out of the way now. Lesson 1, beep, boop, and other slams. I just love it. If you are unaware what a Modron is, Modrons are these creatures of order. They are named after their shape. You have cubes and tetrahedrons and things like that, and that's literally what they are. Is a cube Modron is going to be a cube with a face and arms and the legs. And they're all lawful creatures, meaning they live in the idea of order. And so the Clockwork Soul Sorcerer is built along the idea that they have somehow been touched by a plane of existence that is built upon order and law. So a lot of their abilities are going to hinge on the idea of imposing order, getting rid of chaos, and things like that. And I think it makes them a pretty interesting flavor of this as a sorcerer, because sorcerers are kind of a little bit built on the idea of chaos, because they can, on the fly change how spells work with their meta magic, and they can change their spell slots by turning them into sorcery points and vice versa. So you kind of have this interesting dichotomy of a creature that is powered and draws their power from a plane of order, sowing chaos, but at the same time trying to impose order through the chaos. It's a really interesting idea. So let's start off with the first level, the first feature you get at first level when you take this, which is Clockwork Magic. It's the same as most others. This is spellcasting. classes in it. It gives you an expanded spell list. Basically, again, sorcerers don't have to prepare spells; they just learn them and know them. So these are additional spells that you automatically learn. You don't have to. You get to learn other spells in addition to these. The other thing that's kind of unique, and I don't know if I just haven't noticed it in the other ones, but it did jump out here to me. Whenever you gain a sorcerer level, you can replace one spell you gained from this feature with another spell of the same level. The new spell must be an abjuration or transmutation spell from the sorcerer, warlock, or wizard's spell list. So that seems a little bit different. I'm just looking up this. No, I guess that is just a sorcerer thing because psionic spells works the same way. So, interesting, useful. The actual spells that they get are, kind of interesting, I guess, the best thing. You have things like alarm, protection from good and evil, lesser restoration, dispel magic, the things like that. You kind of come into two different groups with their clockwork spells. You have ones that kind of end spell effects and stop things from happening, and you have others that prevent things from happening to someone else. So things like freedom of movement, greater restoration, and wall of force. They do get Summon Construct, which is a new Tasha spell. Again, I love the new summon spells, and it does kind of make sense for them to be able to effectively summon a robot. So, yeah. And like the other subclasses for the Sorcerer, they have Manifestations of Order. This is basically, the things that kind of prove you are a clockwork soul sorcerer. So things like the hands of a clock spin in your eyes, or floating equations and geometric objects overlay your body. So just, stuff that makes you very math oriented and numbers oriented, which kind of makes this a sense. Yeah. The other first level ability that you get as part of the subclass is called Restore Balance. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you is about to roll a d20 with advantage or disadvantage, you can use your reaction to prevent the roll from being affected by advantage or disadvantage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You get them all back on a long rest. This is really interesting. But because it kind of works as a double-edged, or not really a double-edged sword, it can work for your allies. It can work for against your enemies. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can use this. First of all, action economy-wise, anytime you're getting a reaction, that's a good thing. That gives you more actions than your opponents. That's a boon for your team. This, though, is really, really interesting in the idea that being able to cancel advantage can be huge when it's being used against a player. Obviously, advantage, if someone's rolling an attack against you with advantage, there's a lot better chance they're going to hit. There's a lot better chance they're going to crit, and all these really bad things. So being able to cancel advantage against your party is really nice. And that can be used to kind of screw with the action economy, because by turning it into just a flat roll instead of an advantage roll, there's a much better chance that they're going to waste that action by missing. So it's always nice. The other thing that's interesting about this is it just says about to roll a d20 with advantage or disadvantage. So this is not limited to attack rolls or saving throws. This is any time they are rolling a d20 with advantage or disadvantage. So there are so many different uses for that. Now, when we go to the flip side, canceling advantage from your party may not be the greatest way to use this. If your rogue is rolling with advantage, you're like, no, roll that flat. They're probably going to get upset. However, canceling disadvantage is super useful, especially if we're talking about a rogue. For a rogue to get sneak attack, there's a bunch of different ways to get it, but one of the easiest ways to ensure they can't use this sneak attack is if they have disadvantage on the roll, it doesn't matter what else is happening in combat. It doesn't matter how many allies you have next to them, whether they are hidden or whatever. If the rogue has disadvantage on the roll, they cannot add their sneak attack damage. So just being able to cancel disadvantage for something like that is really, really useful. In addition to that, it is incredibly common, especially when she gets to higher levels, for powerful enemies to find ways to invoke disadvantage. And so being able to cancel it when you need an attack to definitely hit can be a very, very big deal. Especially if you have like maybe a mage that's firing off a disintegration. You don't want that missing because it does no damage. It's a wasted spell slot if it misses. Or you have a cleric that's firing off a guiding bolt that's going to help maybe your paladin get a crit on their next turn. You know, being able to just get rid of the disadvantage so I have a much better chance of doing it is really, really good. So I like that. And I like how it fits in with the theme of kind of controlling chaos. This gets rid of the additional kind of chaos that disadvantage or advantage can cause. You know, you're only rolling one die instead of two. And I think that's what's most brilliant about it is it is literally removing chaos from a roll. And I think that's super interesting. At 6th level, you get Bastion of Law. As an action, you can expend 1 to 5 sorcery points to create a magical ward around yourself or another creature that you can see within 30 feet of you. The ward lasts until you finish a long rest or until you use this feature again. The ward is represented by a number of d8s equal to the number of sorcery points spent to create it. When the warded creature takes damage, it can expend a number of those dice, roll them, and reduce the damage taken by the total rolled on those dice. There are so many uses for a ward that doesn't always have to go off. First things first, I'm a big fan of just giving players dice pools that they get to use. I think just from a play perspective, having something physical on the table that represents a power that your character has, I just think makes it that much more real. So just on the front, you get to give people up to 5 D8 that they get to keep by their character. And whenever they take damage, they can go, oh, I'm going to burn a few of these and roll them and get rid of some damage. So I really, really like that aspect of it. In addition, just having a ward that you get to choose, because it specifically says when the warded creature takes damage, it can expend. It doesn't have to. And you can choose how many to suspend. Because it says when it takes damage, not when it gets hit, you get to choose how many dice. Now, the wording specifically does say it expend a number of those dice, roll them, and reduce the damage. So it isn't like you can just keep rolling. You have to choose, the way I'm reading it, you would have to choose the number of dice you're burning from the get-go. But you'll get told how much damage you're going to take before you choose how many dice to use. Yeah, like there are just so many different ways that this could be useful. Again, I tend, especially since sorcerers are spellcasters, I tend to think a lot about concentration checks. The DC for a concentration check is 10 or half the damage that you take. If you get hit by something that does 26 damage, that is just increased your DC from a DC to 10 to a DC to 13. However, roll a single D8, you can reduce that down to 21, and this is only have to make it DC 10. That's a 15% increase in you making your concentration check. That is pretty massive. In addition to that, there are just good things that happen when you're not getting hit. Being able to reduce damage completely means, again, the enemy is wasting their attack roll or their action because you're not taking any damage from it. There's so many different ways this could be used beneficially. So I really like it. I think it's very, very interesting. At 14th level, you get Trance of Order. As a bonus action, you can enter this state for 1 minute. For the duration, attack roll, excuse me, attack rolls against you can't benefit from advantage, and whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can treat a roll of 9 or lower on the d20 as a 10. You can use this bonus action, or once you use this bonus action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend 5 sorcery points to use it again. This is another thing that's kind of curtailing chaos, which is really, really nice. And it does it in a number of ways. First things first. Creatures can't benefit from advantage when they're making it to attack rolls against you. That's, again, really useful. However, it also narrows the number, the numbers you can actually roll on a d20, effectively to turning it into a d10. It's taking out 9 numbers, which reduces the amount of chaos, which, again, I think is just brilliant. In the fact that the mechanical features are fitting the lore justifications for why it's being done. The other thing that's really nice about this is it doesn't make an exception for nat ones. So when you're in the Trance of Order, you cannot critically fail anything. That is a really big deal, especially since by 14th level, you probably have a pretty decent spell attack bonus, especially if you have like a Wand of the War Mage or something that is increasing your spell attack rolls. It effectively means if you're never rolling, or at least for a minute, you are not rolling under a 10, you are not going to fail almost any of your attack rolls. In addition, if you're using it outside of combat, any ability that you are trained in, by this point, again, you're probably going to have a pretty high modifier for it. So there's a very good chance that you will be incapable of rolling under like a 17 or 18, maybe up to 20, while you have Trance of Order on. And that's a huge deal. So yeah, just overall, really, really interesting. So many useful aspects for Trance of Order. And it's a different way to use your sorcery points. Again, the Sorcerer is kind of built on chaos and, modifying spells that they cast them. But to fit with the theme, the Order... the Clockwork Sorcerer gives you significant encouragement, I guess you could say, to not use a ton of magic and to use your sorcery points for these Order features. They can be as useful, if not more useful, than a lot of the meta magic options. And I love that. Again, that's going to mean this Clockwork Sorcerer is going to be played massively different from literally every other sorcerer, because every other sorcerer is using meta magic constantly. That is why you choose as a sorcerer in 5th edition, is to use meta magic, and this one may very rarely use it. So I love it. I think it's super cool. 18th level, you get Clockwork Cavalcade. As an action, you summon Spirits of Order to expunge disorder around you. As an action, you summon the spirits in a 30-foot cube originating from you, which I think means not that the cube is on all sides, but you are on one face of the cube is the way I read it. Which is very reminiscent of fourth edition because everything was done in squares. They didn't have spheres and arcs and the things like that in fourth edition. It was all based on squares. So I kind of like that. And again, it's a sorcerer built on order. So using a shape that is perfect like a cube makes perfect sense. The spirits look like modrons or other constructs of your choice. The spirits are intangible and invulnerable, and they create the following effects within the cube before vanishing. The spirits restore up to 100 hit points, divided as you choose among any number of creatures of your choice in the cube. Any damaged objects entirely in the cube are repaired instantly, and every spell of 6th level or lower ends on creatures and objects of your choice in the cube. Once you use this action, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest, unless you spend 7 sorcery points to use it again. So this is really, really big for a number of reasons. Being able to restore 100 hit points effectively for free once, and then for 7 sorcery points afterwards, is pretty big. Now, 7 sorcery points at 18th level, that is a massive chunk of your sorcery points. You have a total of 18, meaning you can do this twice. And that would use the majority of your sorcery points. This is a kind of a big deal, but you get one use for free, so that turns it into up to the 3 times. And 100 hit points is 100 hit points. Even at 18th level, that is bringing someone from near death to near max, unless they are, barbarian or a fighter, someone that has a ton of hit points. So that's really good. Any damaged objects entirely in the cube are repaired instantly. That is a ton of different things. And it doesn't make any sort of clarification on any damaged mundane objects. So this could be used to repair magic items, which are notoriously difficult to break anyway, but it does happen. And this could be super useful to that. And then every spell of 6th level or lower ends on creatures and objects of your choice in the cube. So if you've got some enemies as spellcasters that are doing things like anything from like a minor bless all the way up to magic weapons and elemental attacks or curses and the things like that are really hurting your party, you just get to end them as long as there's a 6th level or lower. And you don't have to choose. It doesn't say, and they create one of the following of effects. It's they do all of this. So again, this is very much an order kind of thing. You make a cube. You get to restore hit points, basically fixing the things. You get to literally fix things in there, and you get to end spells that are causing issues with your party. Whether they are affecting your party or affecting the enemy. Like, this is such an interesting ability that doesn't exist in any other class or subclass, and I really like that. You could seriously run this sorcerer as just a really interesting agent of order. Coming from a class built on chaos. Like, the dichotomy is just super cool. For final thoughts. Overall, this is such an interesting sorcerer. One of the things with sorcerers is they are kind of viewed, especially with things like Quicken Spell or to Twin Spell, they're viewed a little bit along the lines of just this super powerful kind of nuking character where they can just throw all of this magical might forward, and that's the way people tend to play them, is just using all the magic they can to do significant amounts of damage. This flavor of sorcerer is not going to be built that way. This is 100% a support sorcerer. This sorcerer is going to get the most benefit out of working with their allies to ensure they are controlling the rolls enough so that everyone does well. I'm not saying that they won't be casting, fireballs and meteor storms and the things like that. Obviously, they will. It's part of the main sorcerer kit. But the additional skills that they are given here and the additional features they are given turn this into such an interesting support version of a sorcerer that you don't really see with other sorcerer subclasses. And I think that creates a very tactical version of this as a sorcerer. And yeah, I think it's super, super cool. Yeah. So, anyway, that is going to be all for me today. As always, if you enjoyed this, please hit that like button. It really does mean a lot. And also hit the subscribe button. I'm putting out content 4 days a week now. And, if you want all that sent directly to your subscription box, just hit that subscribe button. In addition to that, please hit the notification bell and turn notifications on. This way, it ensures that if YouTube decides that they don't want to send out one of my videos, you're going to get a little notification so you never miss them. And every so often, I just put out videos that are interesting to me. And they're not going to be on my regular upload schedule. They're just going to happen randomly. So turning those notifications on ensures you are never missing anything that I do, which may be a good or bad thing. Yeah. Anyway, in the comments down below, what is your favorite three-dimensional shape? Are you a cube person? I'm a big fan of the dodecahedron. However, icosahedrons are pretty cool too. And if you don't know what those are, you should probably look them up because you use them a lot. Anyway, again, this is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right, bye bye.